That's what she's like.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the committee of the whole meeting to order. It's Tuesday, January 15th at 7 p.m. First item on the agenda is roll call, please.
Rosado?
Here.
Atack? Stark? Here. Chancet?
Here.
Wolf?
Here.
Salvati?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
O'Brien?
Here.
Callahan?
Here.
Meitzler?
Here.
Malay? Ewer?
Here.
Cerrone?
Here.
And McFadden?
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Item number 2, rather, is a reminder for everyone to use the microphone so everybody at home can hear us on BATV and so we can get a good recording of the meeting. Item 3 is items removed, added, or changed. I know of none. Does anybody have anything? Okay. Item 4, matters from the public for items that are not on the agenda.
I've got something. I have a resident here that wants to address the council. You've all met him before, the insurance agency on Wilson. He has an opportunity come across his desk occasionally, and so he wants to take advantage of selling cars through that property, not taking possession. He runs the car show downtown and stuff and collectibles, and occasionally has people asking him for cars. So he ran the permit or applied for a permit to be a dealer out of there. Again, not taking possession. It would all be drop shipped, and was told that in the DMU can't be done. I talked to Laura. She said, well, why don't you just get a straw poll at council and see if people have objections to this, because it would be a simple text amendment that would only apply to his property and be kind of a no-brainer. But she said have Darren come and answer questions and see if anyone had concerns about it and get an idea. Yep.
So where are you sourcing the vehicles? Like auction, like Mannheim or something like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's like kind of surgical, you know what you're looking for and you go out and get it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah.
And you
Client.
Can you move the mic?
Yeah,
Well,
Darren, pull the mic up there, please.
Client says, I want X vehicle. Go
You go
locate
look for it.
find it, yep, attend the auction. Or buy a vehicle wholesale and have it transported to another auction, re-wholesale it there or resell it there. So, yeah.
Okay.
Now, if you're doing them wholesale, selling it through that, there would be no sales tax on that, right? Or if you're selling them private party, would the sales tax be collected through that address?
Wholesale to wholesale, correct. No
There would-
sales tax.
no
but
sales
yeah,
tax.
private party,
Private party sales would be
For
sales
sure.
tax generating.
for sure.
And you will not take possession of the cars you're looking at that location, correct?
Correct.
Would we be setting a precedent?
well, I think we set a precedent. There, a couple people have come forward with the internet sales, but I think it's been in the industrial
Right.
area, so
Right.
this probably would set precedent. But this is a new day and age with internet sales. I mean, it's not. I think it was established in the DMU because you thought cars would be there with for sale signs and sitting there and that type of thing. But now that's not the case. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, if there were cars that were going to be parked back there all the time, I'd have a problem with this, but if there's no vehicles there, it's no different than it is today.
Well, it's no different than any other sales outlet anywhere in any store downtown that says, okay, I offer this to the public, you buy it, I have it drop shipped to your house. That to me is fine, and as long as we're collecting sales tax on it on the retail sales, I think that's probably a win-win for his business and for our city.
Nick, for the mayor's benefit, do you want to brief him a little bit on what Darren is here for?
Darren has an insurance agency on Wilson. He's had some opportunities come across his desk to buy and sell cars. He runs the collection or the car show, or he did last year anyways, and he's got a couple collectible cars. He applied for permit through the state to have a dealer license. So he can go to auction, deal cars, and buy cars on the internet and drop ship them. The only hiccup in the whole thing was that he needed permit from Batavia and was told that, no, the DMU does not allow it at that address. So Laura thought, okay, it's an easy text amendment as long as he's not taking possession of cars and cars won't be parked there for sale, then if everyone is on board, then we can get a text amendment on the EMU and allow it just for his property.
I guess my reaction would be with what Alderman Wolf just said. I think that the sales tax is the key here because, I mean, I think we've got other people selling other things besides cars. Whether or not they're collecting sales tax becomes another greater issue. I just spent the whole morning in Chicago with the CMAP Council of Mayors, in which this was not this particular subject, but this was a pretty widely held view here that one of the things Illinois' got to do is kind of tighten its noose around what it is we're allowing to slip through the sales tax agenda here. And I mean, as you can appreciate, that's a real important source of revenue for us right now. So as long as, you know, I'm all for a text amendment that allows you to sell it any place you want as long as you're collecting sales tax. But when
Right.
you don't want to collect sales tax, then I think we've got a problem.
Right, and this is a case where there's probably people doing it as a hobby and whatnot and not saying it. He goes the right approach and goes to get all the permits, and he's the one that's stymied, you know, so it doesn't seem right. So I think,
Well, the cars are a permanent thing, I believe, by the state, whereas some of this other stuff probably doesn't have the state regulation on it that it should. And that was one of the pitches I was hearing in Chicago today, is that, you know, if somebody's selling, one mayor was saying that they think there was somebody in their town that was selling over 5,000 boxes of greeting cards for Christmas out of his house, and he wasn't collecting any sales tax about it, you know, and there was all this activity of trucks and UPS and all this stuff moving in and out of there, but it was totally outside the tax control situation. So there's going to be, I think, if it hasn't already started, there's a big momentum push by a number of municipalities to tighten down on the sales tax law. So I appreciate him coming in here forthright and, you know, telling us what he wants to do and trying to get this done the right way. I mean, I think that speaks wonders for his integrity, so I have no problems with him doing it as long as we understand the sales tax.
Yeah, because I think that's one definite plus of having the state license as a dealer is you have to be very careful of how you list the cars, how you sell them, the documentation you have to have for what's sold wholesale versus what's sold retail. So that way you do have the tax, at least the filing requirements on everything. So that's something that I think is very important on that. And plus, I think it would be good for us to be in front of that because there are a lot of places in the Fox Valley right now that are wholesaling cars or retailing cars through Facebook, through Craigslist, and nobody's paying any taxes on them. So that's something I think we have to be very careful of. And if we get out ahead of it and show that this works in the downtown mixed use where you can have an office, 6 computers in it, and 3 people working for you, you can put a lot of money through a business and in tax revenue. So I think it's an opportunity.
So it sounds like I don't hear anybody that's got any objection. Nick?
and
So-
if nobody objects, I would ask somebody to join me to direct staff to amend text to allow this and put it on
Can I-
Monday's agenda.
Can I just say one thing again is, it sounds great. It sounds like it's a great thing to do. But we're just being kind of proposed this right now. Has staff put any input into this to say, is there any kind of monster kind of hiding out in the weeds that's going to come and bite us later in life from it? That's all I'm just concerned.
The only, he direct,
On that.
yeah.
Oh, Alderman Stroh just mentioned, you know, let's vote this and get this on Monday's agenda. No one from community development is here, so I don't know how
Right.
quickly.
Yeah.
Right, no, it won't be, you won't be able to put it on Monday's agenda.
Yeah, so that's.
For the shot.
So why don't you get a hold then, Nick, since you're kind of driving this for the gentleman? Why don't you get a hold of Laura then and let her know that it doesn't appear as though anybody's got any objections at this point, and let's let community development do their thing with them and get it going.
Okay.
Dave? One other thing. I think we kind of brushed on this when we talked about the last either conditional use or the last use that we had out in the industrial park of having sales, you know, at a condo building in one of the industrial park lots. And I think we had talked about it, or at least I kind of remember that we had talked that maybe this is something that as it evolves into different type of sales that we're going to have to think about where else we allow this. Because if somebody can come in and say, hey, I'm going to sell $500,000 worth of cars through, my online auction house, and they're all going to be retail, and it's going to generate X number of sales tax dollars, we can find a place to put that. And if that means that under conditional use, we allow it everywhere, maybe that's something we have to think about.
Yeah, and there's good points, because we should maybe on the back end protect that, make sure there aren't, 5 cars parked across,
Right.
taking up Rosati's parking lot with cars, sales.
And that's why I think it should be a conditional use regardless of where it is, so that way we have knowledge of it and know what's going to be involved in it. Because, somebody could literally run this out of their house, any office, anything, and really generate some serious money.
Yep.
Marty?
Just to make sure that, so there's no surprises, does it have to go through Plan Commission first
I don't.
for a text amendment?
I believe it would. I think it would.
Yeah, I think
Whatever the
it
procedure
has
would
to
be.
go through that first instead of just a, like Laura maybe had said, a quick change, but I also don't want to set that oh, wait, no, we've got to go through this. I think it has to go through Plan.
Yeah, we won't be voting on this for 6 weeks, probably.
So unfortunately, it doesn't look like anything that can happen overnight, but it does look like the council's in favor of what you're requesting.
Okay, great. Thank
So
you.
Nick, you'll get a hold of Laura then?
Yep.
and-
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else from the public? Okay, then we're going to move on to item number 5, which is the wastewater treatment plant monthly construction update. Alderman O'Brien.
Well, we have Scott Trotter here filling in for Jerry Ruth, and Scott's going to bring us up to date on what's going on at the wastewater treatment facility.
Good evening.
Hi, Scott.
How are you? See if I can get this to pick up. So before I get started, I just briefly want to introduce Dylan Pruder, who's with me here tonight. Dylan's a student at St. Charles North and interns with Trotter and Associates through the Project Synergy. So he gets credit for the hours that he works, both last fall and this spring, trying to create more engineers in the world. So it's good for my business. So this is an overview of the treatment plant, and I'll just go through the process the way Jerry explained it to me real quick. So projects that are happening on the plant site right now include to be the main buildings, mechanical, electrical, and process equipment, plumbing and trim and sprinklers. Most of that is done with the exception of the electric. There's a lot of finishes being done, but all of the equipment is set. All of it is ready to be started. But until we can get power to the building on a consistent basis and run process, we're not able to start that equipment up. So that's been a delay we will continue to talk about. The flooring is going in, and you'll see some pictures of that, as well as fire alarm installation. So finishes are there, elevators, and all of the odor control equipment is in place. So as soon as we can start dewatering sludge, we'll be able to cut down the number of odors within the city. On-site power distribution is probably the main hang-up that we're having. Essentially, the sludge handling building was the main power source, and that building will be coming down. So as part of this project, all of the power was refed around the site so that we don't have future delays. We're pulling new conductors throughout the site, and that is the delay that we're foreseeing right now because we can't power up the main switchgear until those conductors are pulled. With respect to the digester ops building, it is very close to complete. Most of the equipment is installed. In fact, all the equipment is installed, but it has not been terminated for electricity. And then the flare and the digesters themselves are complete, waiting for power. Just going over the project, some project photos from the last month. This is an overview of the building. As you can see, we're anticipating glass within the next 2 weeks. That has been a delay. You can see that the monument sign, if you've been down there, looks very nice. It's not covered in plastic anymore, and all of the equipment has been removed and the fencing has been removed so that Flynn Street is for full use by the pantry as well as all of the parking in that area. This is the back of that same building. This is the flooring going down, and that's what the finished product will look like once it's down in each of the rooms. It's a high-endurance flooring material that we're using, just an industrial coating. This is the beginning of the break room area. So that is being installed now, as well as the bathroom partitions are being installed. So you can see the finishes are starting to go into this building. This is the crux of our problem, is the electrical. We have a substantial workforce on site working on the electrical, but they are behind schedule for sure. This is the digester operations building and anaerobic digesters. As soon as these are back in operation, we will cease dewatering raw sludge material, and that will significantly reduce the odors within the community. Restoration has happened. This is the mixed liquor pump station, which is another structure that will be replaced in the next phase. So this process will be online prior to needing to take the future process offline. With respect to progress and updates, the total construction cost was $26 million. As Jerry has been tracking, we are at 84% of that overall cost comparison with the schedule. As far as change orders go to date, we are at 1.4% of the total project value. With respect to the project schedule, we continue to be behind. At one time in December, they had lost 30 days in the 30-day period, which doesn't even seem possible. But the way the schedule was modified and the way they realized that their pulls were going to be from the electrical, they started to realize that it was going to take them longer to construct the project than they had planned and laid out. During the last month, we have not seen a whole lot of improvement. Even though they've worked every day, including Saturdays, they continue to, then they decided that they could no longer fire up switchgear until they had made all of the pulls, which added another 25 days to their overall project schedule. So their liquidated damages continue to mount. The liquidated damages estimated at this particular time for substantial completion and final completion, based on the schedules that they're providing us, are now approaching $600,000. Those are damages that the city is due, and it is our intent to have that discussion and get that discount to the city. Because the city is incurring time expenses, cost with us, as well as being inconvenienced by not having these facilities available in the time promised within the contract. The contractor is well aware of this. This is presented weekly by myself as well as my team at every construction meeting to try and give them some incentive to finish this project as quickly as we can. And that's my update at this time, but I'll take any questions that anyone may have.
Any questions or comments for Scott?
If we don't
David?
spend that,
Go ahead, Dave.
go ahead.
Just on the change orders, Scott, it's a very low percentage for change orders, in my opinion. But is this kind of typical for this type of work, or is this a very low amount compared to what you normally would see?
Normally, I would see my target is 1%. Industry average is 7%. The reason that we just spend a lot of time detailing the work and making sure that we can keep those low change orders. Because as you know, when change orders come, negotiating them is very difficult. We're in a weak position. So we try and be very diligent about that during the design process.
So industry average is about 7%. Okay, thank you.
Alan?
I guess my comment is, if we're going to end up $500,000-$600,000 in liquidated damages in there, if we don't spend that money out of that, can we turn that around into a bike path foundation? Or where do we save that money? What do we just put that away to use on the next phase of it?
I don't know if we're going to get all that money. I
Right,
think
right.
they're going
It'll
to
be
negotiate us
negotiated
down,
some-
which is,
I get it.
so I mean, we don't want to, we want to be made whole for sure,
Yes, sir.
but we don't want to be crippling industry either. So, but whatever is making us whole, I mean, if there's something in there,
Well, and then keep in mind too, I mean, some of the cost is real cost. So
Oh, absolutely.
Trotter and Associates is charging us additional time and money because of it.
Every day.
So that $500,000 isn't extra money we have laying there. it's going out the door.
Right,
Right, and that's what I mean, and the net at the end of that, what do we do with that?
right.
You know.
I mean, I believe that's what's going to be negotiated, is we're going to be made whole. Trotter will be made whole by us, so we're not behind anything. And then there's going to be a balance that's left that is a penalization to them, that'll be negotiated.
That'll be negotiated. The answer to the question is but the net will probably come off the loan amount because it'll be a net deduct change order. And the final loan would need to balance.
Would be lower than that, okay.
Like, the mayor's got something.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, as long as I got you sitting here.
Mayor, pull the mic over by you.
Sorry.
That was item number 2 on the agenda.
Absolutely, no, absolutely.
Thanks, Dave.
When do we think that the bike trail connection that comes up from the quarry there and comes down pretty close to the new building to the west, when's that going to be put in?
It is complete, right? So, yeah,
Basically, we're just in the process of fabricating the signs. We were going full steam on that until we got snow this past weekend, and you guys have had to be redirected towards snow operations. But really, it's just a matter of getting the signs up. It's ready to go from a physical standpoint.
What do we, I forget, have you and I talked about the signs?
I don't know that we talked specifically about the signs, but what is your?
Well, where I'm going from here is that when that idea for kind of cutting that through there back in 1981 when Phil Elstrom did it, there was a guy in town by the name of Rich James who lived here all of his life, and he was an avid bicycle rider, and he was a big supporter of this bike trail when everybody else on the west side was against it and screaming and howling and was negative and everything. So he was the one that convinced Phil Elstrom that I was the newly elected mayor, and they came to see me, and they wanted to put this little connection from the quarry down to Flynn Street and then take it back up on the river, and which was done. So last year, or about this time last year, Mr. James unfortunately died of Alzheimer's disease. So his family has gone out and raised a bunch of money, and they'd like to buy 2 kind of waiting benches that they'd like to put on the trail there, maybe one down by the quarry and one maybe someplace by the food pantry, where, as they say, there's people that come down to the food pantry and sit there and wait to get in the morning. But they wanted to put it on there with a little sign saying, in memory of Rich James, the I don't know, the idea man for the causeway, I'll say.
That's great.
And so it's just kind of a little memorial. A lot of people in town knew this guy and knew his interest in this. And so we wanted to I'll talk to you more when we get the signs and the benches made, but I think they're getting ready to buy them. But I told them to wait a while before. I didn't want them down there and then having you guys have to come down and try to move them because of something you were still doing with construction. So I said,
Sure.
Let's get it all clear. So just so you know, that's kind of in the wings. And I think I've talked to the council about this once before, but this spring is when we wanted to get it kind of put into place.
Wonderful.
Okay.
And the bench by the food pantry would serve a great double purpose, because
Right.
people could go down there and
Right.
that'd be wonderful.
That's the idea behind it. So they're
Very good.
Anyone else?
Lucy, you had something.
I was just wondering, what are normal delays for this sort of project in the industry, and your delay?
So I would consider this to be abnormally long. Something that is 30 or 45 days, things come up, but we haven't had anything come up during this project that significantly that changed the scope of the work for the contractor to be delayed. We have provided some time extensions during the change orders, and I think those time extensions that were agreed upon are something like 20 days, not 4 months. So this is a contractor issue, not a project issue.
Thanks.
So Scott,
Yes.
I mean, they haven't made terminations then, their connections for pump motors and...
They're making many of them, and a lot of the electrical building wiring is complete. The main hang-up here is pulling through the duct banks to refeed all of the separate buildings. And so those pulls have to be done while those buildings are live, and they're being fed out of the sludge handling building. And then, once all those pulls are done, then we need to switch over building by building by building. But it is pulling through the new duct bank that is the major delay, Mike.
So do you have like a commissioning agent too for all this equipment for
Yeah,
startups?
absolutely. Everything goes through startup by the manufacturer, training by the manufacturer to all of the treatment plant staff, as well as all of the switch gear and all of these wire pulls are tested prior to commissioning.
And your MEPs then are all doing instructional videos and things for staff?
I'd have to check on instructional videos. I believe most of it is that the manufacturer or manufacturer's rep is coming out for a full day for startup of minor equipment. Major equipment, they're on site for several days for training.
Right.
But they're going through classroom-style training on each of these. And then they have the O&M manuals, and then they have the manufacturer's standard videos if they're available. But we have not discussed videoing the training. If
Right.
that's something we hadn't considered it, we could talk to staff about it.
Okay. And it sounds like the delay is mostly electrical now.
At this time, yes.
Okay.
I mean, early in the project, there were some underground piping delays that didn't allow them to get out of the ground as quickly as I had anticipated. But what is holding the project up right now is the electrical contractor.
And they just missed this chunk of work?
It is a rather long conversation, but yes.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll be discussing this further at another time, so.
You'll have another crack at me, sir.
Right. Anybody else have anything for Scott? Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. All right, then, item number 7 is the resolution 19-009-R, execution of an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Batavia and the county of DuPage, Illinois for infrastructure support services. Item 6 was along with item number 5, I think there, Alan.
Right.
6 was actually a separate item, but
Substation.
Rahat wasn't able to be here tonight.
Oh, it is a separate item? Okay,
Yes.
I thought it was in regard to the wastewater treatment. I apologize. So you want to hit number 6 then?
I would love to if I could, but I was not prepared to talk about that. Rahat can't be here tonight, so I was going to ask if we could just skip number 6.
Okay.
Essentially, what we're going to be doing, and starting with the substation and then going into next summer's projects, is utilizing the city's drone to do something similar to what you've just seen for the wastewater, in order to give you guys updates on our major projects as they go along. So you'll start to see that from us for substation, the Main Street project, Deer Path and Main, all the big projects. So that's about as much as I could talk to that one tonight.
All right, then, Alan, item number 7.
I think
sorry.
that's public
Honorable
utility.
Brian?
Yeah, so Gary's up there, he's going to talk about it. It's an intergovernmental agreement, like you said, Dave, and it's for televising, they're having the county do some televising for specialized equipment. We have our own equipment, and sometimes we need specialized equipment, so we're hiring that out. And with the intergovernmental agreement with the county, it should cost us a lot less. So,
Because of our very large presence in DuPage County, we're eligible to do this. Those of you who know how much that is. We are working with DuPage County to basically provide us with flushing and televising and assessment services for sewers. In past years, when we've done the sewer lining, we've utilized those contractors to perform these types of services, and we found fairly substantial unit prices. Jeremy actually took the initiative, after hearing about it from another colleague, to reach out to DuPage County and see if they could help us. And Jeremy's done the investigation to really kind of determine that the unit prices that from DuPage County, which they're in an exhibit here in your packet, that those are considerably less than what we've been paying to other contractors. Our city attorneys have reviewed and commented on the IGA. DuPage County's attorneys have then also reviewed the revisions. Both sets of attorneys are now comfortable with this language. This doesn't obligate us to hire them for X hours every year or so many feet every year. This just sets up the framework so that if we choose to hire them, we can. And that's really what this is. So it's an example of two governments working together to try and save everyone cost. That's why we're recommending Resolution 19-009.
Anybody have any comments or questions for Gary? Mark?
I guess my only question is, we can use this anywhere in Kane County as well? I mean, this isn't
Yeah.
limited to our small,
If we could only use it in DuPage County, the truck would have to drive around in a small little circle.
that's what I feel, so I just,
Yeah, I know.
it seemed
We're-
odd, but okay.
Yes. Well, to that point, Mark, we actually could get like emergency management services through DuPage County's emergency management agency if we wanted to, because we are in that county.
Yeah.
Even though 99.9% of us is in King County. So yeah, no, that's why we're allowed to do it.
Good to know.
Anyone else? Gary, can we use these guys also for regular televising also? Say if we were busy, I mean, our staff is kind of
Exactly. And that's
bare
part of-
threads, and so it's good to have a kind of a backup at a reasonable rate.
Exactly. Yep, that's one of the reasons behind this. And what Jeremy was told was that they've invested in the equipment in DuPage County, and in order to kind of justify their purchase of the equipment, they have this program so that they can demonstrate to their board that, hey, we're keeping the equipment busy, and when we can't keep it busy in-house, we have people lined up where we can send it out of house, and therefore the equipment's always being kept busy.
Right. Makes sense. Anyone care to make a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by McFadden, second by Meitzler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
You want consent agenda, or you want to talk about how government agencies are working together?
Talk about government agencies.
So that'll be on the regular agenda then. All right, then, item number 8, Resolution 19-010-R, the Albright Community Theater lease. Alderman Wolf.
Thank you. This is the renewal of lease for January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2021, for a 3-year period. Check out the memo. We have reduced the cost in this year's lease down to $500 because there are some items that the city has not completed up on the 3rd floor where Albright is located at. And so we dropped it from $750 to $500. If anybody has any questions, I'll try to figure an answer. Do you know, Gary, do you know what the things are that we haven't completed upstairs? Was it another?
So when we first did the last lease with the Albright Theater, that was when we had visions of adding the washrooms upstairs on the 3rd floor. Those were going to be basically done as a building security measure because right now the theater folks, when they're here, they have run of the 2nd floor hallway where finance department is and where IS is, because it's the only access to bathrooms that they have. So we were going to build the 3rd floor bathrooms up there to basically keep them up there during their times here. That hasn't happened, so that's the improvements.
Marty?
There's been a lot that's been done up there. How much have they invested?
They've invested quite a bit, but I don't have an exact dollar figure for you. They and Laura mentions it in her memo. They have made their own investments up there. So.
Yeah, it's obvious, the concession stand, the ticketing, all being switched.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that was part of our plan, or did they do that? I thought they might have done
Our
that.
plan was like the lobby.
Right.
We did the enclosed storage areas and created the actual lobby space. Phase 2 of our plan was going to be then the restrooms. So that was really kind of our major items up there. We did an exit out at the southeast side, that stairwell, which actually comes down to this stairwell. But I can't tell you how much money they've put in on their end. I don't have that value in front of me.
It's a lot, I would.
It is, yeah. They put money into it.